Welcome to the 2.0 Grandma Podcast, a space created by a grandma for grandmas and all about grandmas. Our mission is clear: to empower and support grandmas as they redefine, realign, and redesign their lives.
Hey, I
How,
made it.
all right.
Oh my goodness.
How are you?
I am fine. I am fine.
Good, good, good.
Uh,
Did you have trouble or what?
hmm?
Did you have any trouble? You said, "Oh, I
No,
made it."
no. It was just I didn't know this was video.
Ah, okay,
So
okay.
I was gonna do it at the location I was at because I thought it was just audio. And then I'm
Ah,
like, oh my God, I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't, the things that I need. You
okay, okay. And did you have to rush around to make it all work?
I did, but I
I
made it. I
apologize.
did, but I made it. So I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Great. 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 I'm so
Yeah.
glad it worked out because, yeah, I don't want it to be stressful at all. I just wanted to have a conversation and talk. And this is long overdue because I think it's probably, I was looking back through my text message, right? When you and I first started talking. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow. Because I think I said something like the last message I said, Happy Thanksgiving. I'm like, wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a
Yes,
while.
yes, yes.
A lot
But
has happened.
I know you've been busy. I know I've been busy. So yeah, we out here doing the thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And I before we jump into the show, I want to ask about, remember the you sent out a thing where you were going to interview 100 grandmas, black grandmas or something like that. And I remember responding to it, and then I think I got sidetracked. Is it too late for
No,
that? Okay,
no,
okay.
not at all. Did you schedule an appointment?
No,
A
that's what I
call?
didn't do. What I did
Okay.
was I filled out something, and then when it got to the schedule part, I said, "Ooh, I need to look at my schedule." Then I got sidetracked when I looked at my schedule, got sidetracked with something else,
Yeah.
and never to return again until now. So,
Yeah, no, I got a long way to go on that project because I'm
okay,
not stopping until I get 100 Black
okay,
grandmothers.
okay. So this is over. This
Uh-oh. I'm sorry, say that again?
I said. So this is going to be over time.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, okay, great, 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 great. Okay, so what I thought what you were doing is you once you get the interview, you're featuring it, and then but I figured you had a time frame. So sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not gonna launch until I may even hold it off. Our next gala is in September of 2025, and
Mm-hmm.
that may be when I reveal it.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
So
okay.
it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time to get to the 100 grandmothers,
Right, yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, this has been a very interesting and fun pathway because I think it's new for everybody that's in this space,
Mhm.
and we're treading lightly, and you don't want to push too hard, and yeah, so but it has been very rewarding for me. It has been so enlightening about grandmas in general and about the world and how they see us, and just so much. I mean, I've learned so much in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And I know you've been in this space a little longer, so you probably know a lot more than I do. But let's get into this
All
interview.
right.
I'm so
Uh,
excited. Oh my God.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'm excited, and I'm hoping that one day soon I will get to go to one of your galas, because I think that when I first heard about your organization, I think that's the year it was in DC. So that's probably the closest that it was, because I'm in Virginia.
Yeah, that's close. Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
that
it
was
in this year. We had it in Chicago.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. So when I heard about it, and when I heard about it, it was very close to the date, I
Mhm.
think, and so it was too late for me to rearrange. I'm like I said, I'm in Virginia. I'm in Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
But I
you
go
got to come to the Atlanta.
right. I got
Yeah.
Atlanta. Okay.
It's going to be in
Is
Atlanta
that
next year.
25?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, definitely. Okay, excellent. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So grandmas, it is my pleasure. And I feel like, sometimes we say our pleasure, but I also feel like this is something that was meant to be. Right? It's like fate because Miss Tonya and I are both in the same space as far as working with talking about trying to make things better for grandmas in general. And so it is my pleasure to introduce some of you who may not know her to you because I think this is something that number one, we always want to collaborate, and number two, there's enough out here so that everybody, as they say in the street, everybody can get a little piece of the pie. So we should be highlighting each other, uplifting each other. And so what this session, this episode is going to be about. It's about from one grandma to another and showing that guess what, we can do this and we can do this together. So it's my time,
Absolutely.
Miss Tonya Jackson. Now, first I like to start off with talking about who you are, right? Your grandchildren, how many you have, all that, and then getting into the platform that you have.
Okay.
And so I've heard your story. It's a very fascinating story. And a matter of fact, let me say this right in here, right now. I want you in the next book because I think your story it's captivating, it's surprising, it's so knowledgeable. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was a thing, or this could happen, or whatever. And so it's a story that needs to be told. And I would love for it to be a part of my next book. And what I do is I do stories of inspiration, life lesson, and wisdom from grandmas. And so I would love for you to be a part of that. So with that being
Abs-
said, yes, let's jump right in it. So Miss Tonya, tell us a little
yes.
bit about who you are.
Oh,
Fly, I can
okay.
tell that you fly. So beyond that.
Well, my name is Tonya Jackson, and I am the founder of Voices of Black Grandmothers, National Black Mother's Day, which is a national holiday I've established for Black grandmothers. And I am also the creator of a private Facebook group, Voices of Black Grandmothers, that has now just reached 36,100 members.
Wow.
It took work.
Wow.
It took
Wow.
work. Yeah. So I have 8 grandchildren, 4 boys, 4 girls, and I have one on the way that's going to break the tie.
Ooh, it's gonna
So
break the time. Right.
yeah,
Well, fingers across
because
for what?
I have my teams, right? I got my
Right.
boys, I got my girls. So this one's going to break the tie.
You.
Um, and the platform that I created comes from my personal story, and 17 years ago, and I had thought about that. My oldest granddaughter is she's 17.
Mm.
And so my story came from my daughter being a teen mom. And it's amazing because right now I am in a certification program for kinship care leadership.
Oh.
And through this program, I began to realize, because the story I tell is, my daughter was a teen mom, and that, created a fight with the legal system with me, because trying to keep her out of that system. And as I've been going through this course, I realized that I was in kinship care. I was a caregiver
Yes.
because I was raising my 15-year-old daughter and my grandchild at the same time. So, as I move forward in my plight, I wanted to create something because of what I had gone through. I wanted to create a platform for Black grandmothers that looked like me, that were going through things like me, that I can relate to, that I can, create my support network. Because, like they say, if you can't find it, you create it.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. So fast forward to today, a lot has happened. And so here we are.
So this organization was 17 years in the making, right?
Yes.
When did you officially, paperwork and all that actually start the organization?
So I incorporated as a LLC, Voices of Black Grandmothers, in 2017.
Oh, wow.
I actually this year, I just got my 501c3 status, so I have now created VOBG Cares. So we
Uh-huh.
now have two platforms that we'll be working on. So VOBG Cares is fastly developing into programs and services and things like that. So, I did the first, from 2020, when did I start? 2007
Mm-hmm.
up until 2012. In 2012, I was invited to the White House
Mm.
because of the work that I was doing, the workshops that I was doing. And it was a grandparents program that I went to, and I did a day trip. I was destined to get there for that program. And I did a day trip, and that was when they told us to go back to our community and start a movement.
Wow.
And I didn't know how to start a movement. So I came back home and I went to my daughters and I said, how do I reach people? How did I do that? They were like, Mom, go on Facebook,
Social media,
go to
right?
Facebook.
Yeah.
And so they helped me create a group. They helped me create my personal page, and I just started figuring it all out. And when I first got on Facebook, I started reaching out to women on Facebook that I knew were
Mm-hmm.
grandmothers. And I was inviting them. At that time, it was called Black Grandmas Movement, because that's what they told us to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
was reaching out to these women, and this one lady, she put on her page, she says, "Do you all believe this woman invited me to a grandma's group? I'm too young and cute to be a grandma, but I knew she had a grandchild."
Right, right,
And
right.
at that point, I felt like this is not going to work. I'm not doing it. But I realized that I hadn't fulfilled my purpose. So I'm like, nope, got to keep going. And so I kept going. I got the group up to 3,000, but there was no activity. I'm trying to get people I'm posting me and my grandkids, and I'm trying to get people to respond. And I didn't get any feedback. So in 2019, I decided to do a day party, because I'm talking to my kids and I'm like, what do people like these days? How do you
Right.
bring them in? And so I decided to do this day party. I invited 15 grandmothers and I bought them lunch, and we talked, networked. I invited a photographer and a makeup artist, and I asked them to wear long black dresses.
Ah.
And so we did a photo shoot,
Ooh.
and they each got their individual photo. And the week after that, we went into COVID. Everything shut down. So my intention was to go to different states and do this same thing.
Right,
We
right.
got shut down. And so again, I had to pivot, and I had to figure out, now how do I do this? So I began posting those pictures. I began posting my pictures, and I began posting and basically saying, look at these grandmas, aren't they beautiful? Because we tend to, if I were to ask my 2-year-old or my 5-year-old grandchild, what does a grandmother look like? They're going to show me a picture, and it's going to be an old person, glasses, in a rocking chair with a cane.
Yes.
And
It's over.
that's, yeah,
Right.
bent over. And that's that when you say grandma, and that's why it was hard to attract,
Yes.
women, especially Black women, to
Mm-hmm.
that platform, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the vision that they had. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to show them different.
Yes.
So once I posted those pictures, I had gotten the group up to 3,000. I started getting 1,000 people per day
Wow.
joining the group. And so it went to 8,000, then 10,000. And I'm like, okay, I'm on to something now.
Right, right.
And so as of today, we're at 36,100.
Wow.
And the activity in the group is magnificent and amazing because there are women in there. It's an empowerment group, and everything we do is to empower each other. Even when we post our grandchildren, I often ask them, okay, today is about you. Post a picture of you. And so, I watch the group very carefully because I don't allow negativity, don't put people down. If you got a question, reach out to me and let's talk about it. But, come in with something positive to say, because one of the things that I do, I have a lot of conversations with grandmothers. And one of the things I do know is that you never know what a person is going through on the other side of that post. And that negative post may be the one thing that sends them over the edge. They may be coming to this group, this my last try, and they come in and they get a negative response. That might be their confirmation. So I'm very careful about the words we use, how we talk to each other, how we support each other. When we do our annual event, it's nothing but love. If you look at our video, there's a video on the voicesofblackgrandmothers.com. As soon as you go on there, and if you look at that video, you will see how we engage with each other. We don't, if we were on the cane, we getting up
I
and
know
getting
that's
off
right.
that.
Exactly. I saw the dancing and I'm like, all right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
right. That's exactly what it's all about, because we get enough negativity around us just in life in general, right? There's so much out there. And in the different things that we do, so the different aspects of life, if it's a career, if
Yes.
it's family, if it's, it doesn't matter. You can just walk down your street and you can see, and hear negativity all the time. And
Yeah.
so, yes, yes, yes. I really love what you're doing. And I came into the space a lot later than you did. And I don't know how I happened to stumble upon your site. Maybe it was on Facebook, maybe it was a Facebook post or something that I actually saw, and joined the Facebook group, and then and started responding. And I remember you reached out to me because I can't remember what I said in there.
You were doing your grandma
2.0
fashion
something.
show or something. It
Oh,
was
okay,
around
okay,
Gorgeous
okay.
Grandmother's Day.
Right,
Yes,
right,
yes, and
right.
we talked about it and we posted
Yeah.
it and everything. Yeah,
Yes, 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 yes. And
yeah.
so I really appreciate that, because what I didn't know, I was a new Facebook user at the time. Because if you have kids that are 30,
Yes.
they say, Mom, you do not need to be on Facebook. And I'm like, but why? You on there? Well, I think I'm grown enough and old enough.
Right.
If you're on there, I think I met the criteria, right? And so I'm like, no, Mom, you don't need to be on Facebook. And I'm like, so what goes on Facebook? So for years I avoided Facebook. And then finally I got on there because, well, somebody said, well, maybe you just need to create a personal page. So I created a personal page. I think it was class reunion or something. That's how they, so in
Yeah.
other words, somebody made me do it. It wasn't that I wanted to, somebody forced me
Right.
to do it. And this is how we're going to communicate. I'm like, but I don't know anything about, So then I started, branching out and stuff like that. And then when I decided to jump into Grandma's 2.0, that's when I said, oh, I've got to create a Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff. And I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I just started talking to people and asking people, how to do it. And one thing led to another. But yeah, because I know my adult kids say, no, you don't need to be doing that. I'm like, I thought I was the mama, right? What to do. But you know
But
how kids are. Of course, they
yeah.
want you to stay out of all the craziness that happens there. But I said, I'm using it for good. I'm not using it to,
Right.
to talk junk about anybody. I'm not using it to belittle anyone. I'm not using it to humiliate anyone. I'm
Right.
using it to, because this is the wave of the future. And I've never been afraid to, like when computers came out and everybody was like, oh no, girl, the computer's the devil. I'm like, what? Same kind of thing. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And so for my job, I always had to be in the know, in the front of
Right.
everything, not behind. right?
Right.
So
Right.
we definitely want to embrace that. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a fascinating ride. It really has. And
Yeah.
yeah, so now tell me what's coming up.
Okay.
The 100
And
days.
I do take time with some of the grandmothers that I know aren't tech savvy,
Uh-huh.
and I'll offer them a 1 hour session. And we'll get
Mm-hmm.
on, and they want to know how to use Canva. I use Canva a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know how to use Zoom. I even will do, let me show you how to maneuver around the Facebook page.
Right, right, right.
um so I do address those challenges, but right now, once I finish this certification, so right now we do have a monthly meeting the first Tuesday of every month, and it's our sisterhood empowerment group. And what I did at the last gala, we had workshops. We had grandmothers that did workshops. We had one on grief, one on self-care,
Mm,
and one on, we had someone to come do cancer, and then we had one on trauma.
mm,
And so what I did, I asked those ladies, since everyone wasn't able to be there at the gala, I asked them to come on the platform in that group. And this group, it's a Zoom meeting. I don't record it because of the sensitive information that we're
yeah.
talking about. But for February, we did trauma.
Mm,
For March, we did self-care. And for April, we're going to be doing grief. And when we did the trauma workshop on that Zoom platform, these ladies really opened up, and they realized that some of the things that we were talking about in their triggers, there were triggers
mhm,
that they were
mhm,
having.
mhm,
And one grandmother opened up and said, well, yeah, there's a certain smell, and every
mm.
time I get this certain smell, I get depressed.
Oh, wow.
And so as we were talking, and the grandmother that led um the meeting, it was amazing because she came to the 3-day weekend the day after, that Monday after she had to defend her dissertation.
Mm,
So she was like, I couldn't miss it. She said, I knew I had to get this done, but she said, I just couldn't miss this. And so she led the meeting, and she was able to explain to us that when we have those triggers, it's sometimes things that we have put into our subconscious mind to forget about, and it's these triggers that brings it back up. So one day you might just wake up and it's like, I'm just not feeling myself, I'm not feeling good, there's a trigger, and it may be something that you've dealt with years and years ago.
mhm.
So um that's on our empowerment group meetings. We're going to begin to have kinship care meetings as well, because one of the things that I realized, on this platform, is that a lot of women, one of the things that we do is, we carry this superwoman cape
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
syndrome, right?
Mhm.
Where we can't be, we can't say we're not okay. We can't say we don't feel well. We can't say that I can't do it. And so one of the things that, when you're experiencing something, the first thing people want to tell you to do is to go to therapy, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So a lot of people aren't ready for therapy. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to have that roadway to therapy. We're going to help them with that pathway to therapy, because in order to go to therapy, you have to want to go yourself. Someone can't tell you to go, send you. But if you go through, if you have grandmothers who are listeners, you have grandmothers who can sit and talk with you. You have, because that's what we do, right? We sit and listen to everybody's issues, and we
Yep.
don't take care of our own.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
we're going to be, this platform is going to be listeners to these women, and we're going to create, out of that, we'll create mentors. Out of that, we're going to create mentees. We're going to create women who will talk their way to therapy.
Mm,
So I'm going to be connecting with therapists. Like right now, I am, our nonprofit is, we have a business license to operate in Georgia, Illinois, and Michigan. So we will be starting chapters in each of those areas. And within the chapters, we're going to host these meetings because these women are more familiar with their area. I can't be everywhere.
Right.
So
That's right.
they're going to be more familiar with their area, and start addressing the needs. And as we get those three going, I already have like 5 different states I'm holding that we're going to create chapters in as well. So that's happening. And we're going to bringing in therapists. We're going to be bringing in grandmothers like me. And I specifically told, so I have 2 doctors that I'm working with, doctors of psychology and therapy, and I had to be truthful with them. And I told them, I said, I have no interest in getting a PhD to do what you do, because the work that I do is so much more valuable to grandmothers to get them to you, because I can talk to them from experience. I can talk to them for things that I've gone through, drama, trauma and everything that I've experienced. And then because you go talk to a therapist and they're restricted by their credentials.
Code of ethics, yeah, and code.
Yes. So you got to have people. We got grandmothers in all spaces and places to get this done. And with the as I'm talking to the grandmothers about the magazine, it's been amazing. I have met some amazing women. And the reason I do the phone calls is because I'm making a connection. This is not just a magazine that you're going to be in. This is a connection because they're telling their stories as they're talking to me. And so I'm taking that forward. And one of the things that I have a committee of about 15 women that work with me on the events and things like that. And they know now because I've said this several times, but I always ask them, who is my alter ego? Because sometimes if we can't show up for ourselves, let's get our alter ego to show up for us. But we got to show up, right? And so they know my alter ego is Harriet Tubman. And so when I went to DC, I went back to DC first because that's where my movement started. And I brought it back to Chicago. And DC, aside of all the political arena there, that land, that Harriet Tubman was born in Maryland. That's where the Underground Railroad started. So when we talk about a journey, I use her journey to strengthen me. And I know that the journey that she went on, she was bad. She was bad. She was like, no, you're not going back. You moving forward because you're gonna be free, right?
I know that's
so so we have to do that sometimes because we have to take care of ourselves if we plan to take care of others. And we can't take care of we can't be there for our grandchildren if we're not strong. And I've met some, during the magazine, I've met some of the strongest grandmothers that have stories. And so we're going to have these stories in our magazine. And this is not going to be the last project because my goal, one of the grandmothers I met is an archivist. So she archives data and information. She said, oh, you got me. She said, I'm following you through this whole journey. She said, because 10 years from now, when we look back, I'm going to help you archive everything that you're doing. And when we look back 10 years from now, even we're gone on 50 years from now, we look at this journey that we've been on and how the magnitude of this platform. And I tell people, this is not my platform. I created this for us. So it's for all of us. I don't care what business you have, what walk of life you come from. Credentials, whatever it is, this is a platform that's built for us, and we determine how it's going to be 50 years from now, what it's going to be 50. I see a museum coming. That's all I got to say.
Preach, girl, preach.
Hey.
Yes. I love that idea. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know there was something I heard on TV on that, I can't remember what station it was kind of in the background. They were talking about a museum for was it black country music artists. And I was like, wow. So I know there's, of course, the museum in DC, and they have a section there for, different musical artists, but I don't think there's one for country, right?
Right.
Usually we don't associate country and black music.
And there's not one for grandmothers either, is it?
Right, and there's definitely not anything for grandmas, definitely not a museum. So I love that idea. My point was that, create it, because guess what? We can all be in it, okay? For the work that we're doing. Yeah. And so here's the thing, and here's where I see some intersection with us. So my platform is about what I like to refer to as the 2.0 version of yourself. Because like you, grandmas, well, moms in general, as women, we give, right?
Right.
And when you get to, in my opinion, when you get to the grandma stage of your life, you've given to your children, your husband, whatever, and then everybody else around. And then now it's like, okay, now your children are gone, and most of them, most likely, they're out of your house. It's your time to do something for you. So I call it the 2.0 version. So let's reinvent ourselves. Let's reimagine ourselves. Let's redesign who we are, right? And who we want to be. And let's focus on us for a minute and get our lives together. And for me, what I did was I went back to school, and that's when I worked on my doctorate, is when I was a grandma. I didn't do it early in my life. I did it later in my life. And it was probably the best time, because I was one of those parents that when the kids were doing homework, I was right there with them. Right. So I went to school when my kids went to school. I finished my undergrad while my kids were in elementary school. When they were in middle school, I did my master's degree. When they graduated, and my last child graduated from college, I said, okay, got into college rather. I said, okay, my time. Now I want to work on my doctorate. That's something I've always wanted to do. And so the whole reinventing yourself, constantly reinventing yourself, and it is really what kind of helped me kind of create these platforms, because after I did that, people would say to me, oh, you don't look like a grandma. You don't. And that same thing about, okay, grandmas are bent over, they're walking with canes, they're not wearing high heels, they're wearing, what are those?
Kitten heels.
Orthopedic shoes, right? You remember orthopedic shoes? They wearing orthopedic shoes and the support hose. That's it. I'm like, but today's grandma is not like that. Right? That's how we got those names, Grandma and all this. And another thing that I found, and you may have found this too, is that nobody wants to be called a grandma. They want Nana, Mima, what is another? There's another grandma, all kinds of stuff. And I said, girl, okay, you know what? When I had my first grandchild, or my first grandchild came on the scene, and they told me, he was coming on the scene, and I said, oh no, he's gonna have to call me Grand Diva. I'm nobody's grandma, right?
Right.
Oh no, he will not call me. But the minute that baby called me, whatever he wanted to call me, I was like, yes, So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's how you see it.
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing that I'm trying to change. And I just recently, last year, so I started the organization in 2020 during June. I started doing things online because we were already in COVID. And then last year, 23, I was invited to speak for a group of grandmas who are kinship caregivers. And I had never really heard about, I knew they were raising grandkids. My mom raised some of her grandkids. And so, I knew about that, but there wasn't a name to it, right? At the time. And so when I spoke about self-care and all that kind of stuff, right? And then after that, I said, ooh, I'm going to start an organization that's a part of Grandma's 2.0, but it's all about kinship care, donating time, energy, and money to people who are in that space. And then the other thing that I did was the book that I was telling you about, the third book.
Yes.
So all the other grandmas, none of them are, raising their grandkids, but the third book is about grandmas raising their grandkids. So that's another way that we're intersecting. So I would love for us to talk about some of those grandmas that are kinship caregivers, and how I can get them in the book. So I'm only thinking about 25. That's it. And I have some already, but yeah, definitely.
Oh, I can definitely do that, because I know even, you know, some of the grandmothers that I do talk to, I open up my space for them to talk, because if when I tell my story, they feel comfortable telling their story.
Yes. Yes.
And then you begin to find out, you know, the ones that are showing up in the group, they well groomed, got their business, got it going on and things like that. They've got things going on. And even me myself, you know, and they have things going on that they want to talk about, but they don't know who to talk to,
Right.
because
Right.
we have the, you know, it's like with the system and my background, prior to right now, my background is in data management. You know, I work for an organization, and you know, I manage data and, you know, IT type thing. But prior to that, I worked in, you know, with seniors. I worked for the Section 8 program.
Okay.
And, you know, I've done that for about 15, 20 years or whatever prior to this. And so, you know, what I know is that there's different situations where kinship care has not always been used. Caregiver has. And, you know, there's different situations, and you don't realize, like I said, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. When my situation happened, it was just like, look, this is a situation. I got to deal with it. It's going to happen.
Take
I
care of the
didn't
best way you
exactly. I wasn't calling myself nothing, no
can. Right.
caregiver or anything.
Right.
But now they have words for it. And so you have different situations where you have grandmothers who have, you know, have their grandkids because of a loss.
Yes.
You know, or substance abuse, incarceration. You know, with my situation, a teen mom. And so one of the things that helps them to get through their process is to be able to talk about it, not just be able just thrown in a system. And I, you know, in my course that I'm taking now, you know, they have these grandmothers that are telling their story, and one of them said that, um, you know, the system is very invasive, but it's also helpful if you go through it the right way. If you have support, if you've got caregiver support, if you've got women or people that are helping you move through that system, you know, then you can work through it and get what you need out of it. But a lot of times, and I've worked at organizations where, you know, with kids in foster care, you know, they've got grandmothers that, you know, are in, you know, they call them foster grandmas. And so when we began to talk about this, it's so many levels to it. It's so many levels to it. And, you know, we have to start out having a conversation, and we have to start out having a safe space to have the conversation and making people comfortable. And that's why when I in the group, when grandmothers come in, you know, I don't know all 36,000 members in there, but I do know when someone comes up and I can tell that they're looking for something, they're seeking something, they're in here. And so I make it comfortable for them. So that's what we have to do. And I am all for collaboration, because like I said, this platform alone can't do it all, because it's millions and millions of people in this world.
Yes.
And you're going to reach them. I'm going to reach them, you know.
And maybe at some point we could do a something to a conference or something together.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? We can talk about the one in Atlanta.
Definitely.
We can, you know, we can. Now, I will be in Atlanta next week. I'm doing a tour of the venue. I always do that because, you know, I need to know that it's appropriate for us. And I always look for venues where the events can happen with the hotel, because I don't want people trying to Uber back and forth.
Yeah, that's too much.
And it's too much. So you know, I will be there in May. I'll be in Detroit. And then June, I'll be looking to do something here in Illinois, and we're just going to expand. And so we start our planning once I get back from Atlanta. We start our planning, but Atlanta is going to be much bigger.
Mhm.
It's going to be much bigger. And my parents were from Georgia as well.
Okay.
So when I do move around, everything I do has a purpose. I
Mhm.
don't just pick things out of a hat. It has a purpose. So when we do Georgia, we're going to reveal some things at that, gala as well. So we're going to begin working to fund these programs that we're starting up. Um, bring in our members and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing this next year. And then we're going to be making connections with organizations in those areas because of the referral network that we're creating. We have to, they want to vet me, I want to vet them, and, make sure that our referrals that we're making, for therapy or whatever, that we're sending, we're connected with a viable and a verifiable organization. And one of the other things that we are looking to do is to train grandmothers to facilitate, not just throw them in. Like when I facilitate a meeting, we want to train them to facilitate. We also want to work with therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists to teach us how to recognize trauma and depression and grief and all that. And I have I'm going to have another program just for grief, because I don't consider grief clinical until it gets clinical. So, a lot of women just, have had losses. Like I lost my husband in 2005. So there's grandmothers that I relate to that have had losses as well with spouses, because I was listening to the radio today, and it came to me that we talk about, when people ask you, are you single? Are you married or whatever? Well, women who have lost their spouse are considered widows. I don't like the word widow, in my opinion. So we have to find a space for those women, because we'll have support groups for married women, and then we'll have support groups for single women. But what about those women that have suffered losses?
Yeah.
So I always try to think outside the box, like, what are we missing that we need to fill that void? What piece of this are we missing? Because I don't want to go into a group and talk about being married when I've lost my husband, and I don't want to consider myself single, because technically I'm still a married woman. It's just that my husband he's in heaven. He's no longer here. So I fall in between that space. And so it's like thinking about things like that. Like, we got to begin to address situations that are not normal, and not when you're working with the system. Even when you fill in applications, it's like, I'm a widow, so what does that mean? What does that, am I single? Because then someone will say, well, you're single. No, I'm not single. I'm a woman whose husband is in heaven. And that's how, so how do you deal with me?
And that's very interesting. I never really thought about it. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. We tend to, I mean, there's just so many gaps out here that need to be filled. I mean, we could go on and on and on for days, and then, we still think of some others. But I want to offer something to you. So you were talking about the women who did the workshops around different topics. My field is early childhood education.
Okay.
And so I'm a professor of early childhood. And so another thing that I started doing is talking to grandparents about working with or being with their young children, because the way that we raised our children back in the day, or the way our parents raised us, will not work today. It will get you in jail. It will get you, as Ron Eisen said, you might have to catch a case, right? So you might get a case, right? You're right. So I started talking to grandparents because my college asked me to do this, talking to grandparents about, and not necessarily those that are raising their grandchildren, but just how to interact with the grandchildren because it is so different.
Yeah.
And especially if you're raising your grandchildren, then you really got to make sure that you're doing you're using some strategies and techniques that may be new to you, or
Yeah.
maybe you don't even necessarily believe in, that sort of thing. So I ordered this curriculum and started working with, and that's actually how I found out about how I ended up doing the kinship care thing, because those people told some other people about me, and then, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
But it was really funny how that happened. And what I wanted to do is just talk about, and focus on grandparents who are raising their grandkids, because I didn't realize how many were out there until I started doing this research. And I was like, oh my God, that's a group that we really need to focus on, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah, my whole 2.0 is a kind of a lighthearted, it's about changing who you are, reimagining who you are, but that's for you.
Yeah.
This area is talking about what you can do to be better at or support your grandchildren who need you and see you not only as the grandparent, which is much more fun than the parent, right? But you're torn
Absolutely.
between those two roles. And how do you do that and still, have that relationship with your grandchild? That's a tough, tough, tough situation. And I think they need respite so they can have a me day and all those kind of things. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of things, that I've been focusing on in that space. And I started working with this group here locally that's a kinship group. And in November, because I really, after I did that keynote, I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of people out here like this. So I was looking at Generations
Mhm.
United, I was looking at them. And then they told me about the state support groups and all that. And so then I started connecting with those people. I didn't realize you were doing this until recently.
Yeah.
And so I could have connected with you, but I didn't realize it's probably within the last month or so. But
Yeah.
anyway, moving
Yeah.
forward, I want us to maybe collaborate on that in some way, because
Absolutely.
I did
Absolutely.
a day of giving or something I did, and people, sent a little bit of money. I actually raised $1,000, which I was
Mhm.
surprised by it,
Yeah.
right? Because like people gave the money, and it was around Christmas. And I
Yeah.
said, what I wanted to do was be able to support two families, two grand families, I think is what they refer to them as.
Yes.
And I did it.
Grandfamilies.
So I ended up giving it to those two organizations. And then at back to school, I did an event with a local group who's an educational group, and I donated some money for, families to get school supplies and things like that. So just little things like that, very little things. But
Yeah.
like I said, when I found out about it, I'm like, oh my God, that is a population out there that nobody is really, as far as I can tell, nobody is really focusing on. And
Yeah.
folks that look like us, that is, other than the quote
Yeah.
unquote system.
Yeah.
And the system is going to be different than, an individual trying to work with it. And so, but again, that's another space where I think we can collaborate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have you mentioned Generations United. That's who invited me to the
Mm.
White House in 2012.
Okay, okay,
And
okay.
so when I went to DC, one of them they came to the event and gave me some information to hand out.
Hmm.
And so now I am so they do have a membership, but now I am working to they have some call to actions and things like that, which are good to be involved in. They
Hmm.
are an excellent network because they don't just work in DC, they work across the
Right,
country.
right.
And
Yeah.
so that's a good one. But we can absolutely, collaborate, because with you're having a background in early childhood, the other piece of kinship care is the grandmother has, that child has suffered a double loss.
Yes, right.
And so you got to deal with their grief because they've lost their parent,
Hmm.
and then they've also been uprooted from their home.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then what happens if the grandmother passes away?
Right.
you
Ugh.
know and
Yeah.
it's that's what I say, it's a lot to unpack, it's a lot of
Mhm.
layers, and we're going to need every Black woman in the United States. I even got some people who next year are going to come from Alaska to the gala. And that's how far and wide this platform goes. I had someone in Europe reach out to me. And so it's going to take more than just me. I can't do it all. I can't do it all. So if we, as Black women, we get together, we collaborate. And I do have to have a disclaimer when I say Voices of Black Grandmothers, it's not exclusive, it's inclusive. And anyone is welcome, because you will have some white grandmothers who will reach out because they now have adopted a Black child. And so
be their family member from
be a family member. So it's inclusive. And I like to get that clear, because it's not just for Black grandmothers. This is the platform that we have, but we know that I've had Latino women reach out to me. I've had Caucasian women reach out to me. I've got 2 women who are like just my cheerleaders. They and it's like, we just love what you're doing. And so we are inclusive. We don't discriminate on any level, but we do know that there's a focus in our community that needs to be addressed.
Definitely. One other thing before we end.
Okay.
Well, 2 things. One, the National Gorgeous Grandma's Day. Maybe that's another thing that we can collaborate on, because that's different from your grandmother's National Grandmother's Day. And so maybe that's something some of your folks may want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that would be really good. And then so that's that. And then the fashion show is another thing with all grandmas. So I met this woman in Charlotte. So I've been doing book signings, right? And so what I do is the people in the book, I connect with some of the ladies, like based on where they're from. And so we did one in Charlotte. And I found a woman there who came to the event, and she was talking about us doing a collaboration on doing some fashion shows. And she has done fashion shows with just grandmas. And so I said, perfect, because that's what I want to do. So maybe that's another opportunity. Maybe we can have that at the gala and have people who want to come. Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because I told them the last one. So I don't, if you go look at the video, I have the cane in the video.
And oh yeah, you're passing it around.
The cane. And I had to tell him, I said, when I got up to speak, I told him, I said, we're changing the narrative all across the board. This cane represents support. That's what a cane is for. It gives you support. So as I pass the cane around to each grandmother, that's me offering you my support. When you pass, so I told him, I said, that's going to be a part of every gala we do. Because like I said, it's about the purpose, it's about the meaning, understanding the meaning. And so we had, and somehow we're going to come up with some kind of PhD for grandmas. I don't know what it's going to be.
Grandmology, right? Grandmology.
Right. Like, you got your certification,
Yes.
So yeah.
I love it. Tonya, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I love the opportunity to get to know you even a little more from the last time that we talked. And I definitely want to be in the 100 grandmas. Okay.
Okay.
And then I want us to talk further and collaborate on a few things, because I see this thing is huge.
It is.
It's huge.
It's bigger than you and I. And
yes, it is huge. And I think the more we do it and the more we, support each other, I think the better it's going to be for all the grandmas that are out there, right?
Absolutely.
And so definitely let's talk offline sometime and really talk about it. And I would love to be a part of the, education team or whatever.
Absolutely.
That, because I think that I've been wanting a platform to do that, because I think that is another area where people need some help, and they may not, just because they're used to doing things a one way with their own children. Well, no, you will. It doesn't work anymore. So, and it could get you in trouble. That's the other part.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to thank you so much for inviting me. This was a great conversation, and we will definitely be working together.
Yes. Okay. So let's stay in touch. I
All
have
right.
your phone number. You have mine. So we know who
I
each
do.
other now. You say you're going to Atlanta in May. I think I'll be in Charlotte then. Where will you be in July?
Probably here.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a senior citizen in July. I'm turning 62.
Oh,
So
okay. You'll be a
so
senior citizen.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't know.
You
We
better
might
do
do
a big to do.
a
A big,
brunch, or I don't know.
okay.
We
Well,
gonna
let
figure
me
it out.
know. Who knows?
Okay.
I may come to Chicago. You said July,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
But we'll definitely talk about the gorgeous grandma. We can, as a matter of fact, we could talk about that really soon,
yes,
because
definitely.
that may be the focus for July.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Because that's exactly what we're gonna do. And I've been doing it online, but this time I'm gonna do it face to face.
Yeah.
Once
And that's needed. That is
Mhm.
needed. I know we
Yes.
came out of COVID, and I know virtual, but Dr. Marsha, if you're in the room when we do the gala, and we did the paint party, we do the taking me back, and just being in the room, you could just feel the energy in the room. And it's so many grandmothers that go back, and they will message me the next day, and I needed this. I needed this. And so we were talking about the gala. I had after the gala, we started talking about the planning, right? And I was telling them, I said, I've had several men approach me,
Mhm.
and they want to be a part of this. And because they said they have stories too. They all
Right,
looked,
right. That's what one
wait,
said to
they
me.
all looked at me like sideways. Like,
Right.
and they were like, but this is for us.
Exactly.
And
That's about
so,
it.
and I
Yep.
told him, I said, but look, I need somebody to help carry the boxes and stuff like that. I said, come on, you all. So for Atlanta, we are going to have a conversation about that, because we do need our men. We do need them in some capacity. And
Mhm.
so, because I have grandsons, and
Mhm.
my oldest grandson was there at the gala weekend, and I can't get rid of him now.
Right.
He's like, he's asking me questions about it and things like that. So,
Yes, yes.
so
Last thing, and I promise.
okay.
I've been talking to the high schools about interns, because
Mhm.
these kids know the social media stuff and this audio editing, video edit, all that stuff, right? So I said, well, I wonder if the kids would even like this. Do you know these kids want to be a part of grandma's? I was like, I was surprised, just like you. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
But and one little boy said, well, yeah, I love my grandma. She's a lot of fun. So he
Yeah.
wanted to be a part of it
Yeah.
just because his grandma was a lot of fun.
Right.
And I said, well, now have you gone to my website and have you seen what we're doing? Because I want to make sure you understand we're talking about grandmas here. And he said, yeah. I said, well, do you think you're interested? So he said, yeah. And I said, well, show me some of your work. And he said, well, I went to your website and there was a video that I saw, and I'll show you how I can take those videos and turn them into clips and stuff so you can use it for Instagram and TikTok. And I was like, and he
Uh-huh.
did. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I
That
was
we
pleasantly
That's what I'm
surprised.
saying, that intergenerational
Yes,
relationship. They can
yes,
teach us some stuff. Because
yes.
I just asked my daughter, I said, you are gonna have to show me how to get on TikTok. And
Right.
she's
That's the
like,
same thing
we
we're talking
got you.
about. We get TikTok.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But tell us
So
how to get to your sites and social media sites and all that before we leave.
okay, so we are on, so we have two websites. One is voicesofblackgrandmothers.com, and that's where you will see the video. You'll see that's where some of our products are that we sell. That's where you'll see our membership is no longer on there, but you'll see um, basically information about our holiday, National Black Grandmothers Day, and things like that. And then we now have VOBG Cares, and VOBGcares.org that's where you'll see our programs. You'll see our membership as we build our chapters and things like that. You'll see some grandmother, well, there's pictures and things like that. So that's how we are. And then we have an Instagram page called Voices of Black Grandmothers, and we're working on TikTok, and we're working on YouTube.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Ms. Tonya, it has been my pleasure to hang out with you. I tell you, I'm so honored and I'm so grateful for the work that you've been doing over the last 17 years. Did you say? Yeah, 17 years. I
17.
tell you. And it is a beautiful thing. And you give me hope and inspiration, because I know that, when I started doing this work, and I was thinking, I wonder if people really gonna, get into this. People really are getting into this.
They are into it.
It's
Yes.
amazing. So thank you for being taking the leadership to start this pathway for the rest of us that are in this space. I really appreciate it. And I'm
Thank
very
you.
honored. So
Thank you.
I look forward to us collaborating, and I will talk with you soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Introducing a remarkable book, a tapestry of stories from atypical grandmas whose lives are a treasure trove of wisdom and inspiration. Stories of inspiration, life lessons, and wisdom from grandmas by Dr. Marsha McLean. This extraordinary book is now available on www.grandmas2.0.com and on Amazon.